Welcome back to the Ulduar Raid Guide. I'm Lore from TankSpot, and in this video I'll be guiding you through the Mimiron encounter. Mimiron is a very complex 4-phase fight. In Phase 1, you'll be facing the Leviathan Mark II tank, which has 4 main abilities to keep track of. First, he will occasionally drop a series of landmines randomly spread in a circle around him. Range classes should be able to stay well out of reach of them, but the tank and melee DPS will need to keep an eye out and should position themselves near an opening. His second ability, Plasma Blast, is a high damage channeled attack focused on the main tank. He'll announce when he's about to cast it through an emote and a raid warning. Cooldowns and lots of healing will be required to keep the tank alive. His third ability is called Shock Blast and is indicated, as you can see here, by both a cast bar and a large sparking animation. Shock Blast will deal a huge amount of damage to anyone within around 20 yards when it goes off, so all melee needs to run out immediately. This is why it's important to find an opening in the landmines well ahead of time. As you might have noticed, there are now 2 sets of landmines out. They will overlap quite a bit, so melee will need to find new openings when he throws the second set. The fourth ability is called Napalm Shell and is a randomly targeted ranged attack that hits its target and anyone in their immediate vicinity for a large amount of fire damage plus more fire damage over time. Anyone hit by it will need quick healing to survive. Ranged DPS and healers should stay spread out during this phase, and a fire resistance aura or totem is very helpful to reduce this damage. Once the Leviathan has been killed, it will drive off and Phase 2 will begin. The phase transitions are fairly long, so take this time to heal up and regen some mana. Raid members who are low on health should use bandages, and hybrids should help out as well to help conserve the healer's mana. The raid should also be getting into position for Phase 2. Notice how we have ranged DPS spread into 2 groups using the circles on the floor as a guide. Once the mines have cleared out, they'll move in closer. Melee should take up position on the opposite side of the boss from the ranged groups. During Phase 2, you'll be fighting the VX-001 Anti-Personnel Cannon. Its primary attack is a shotgun-like effect called Rapid Burst. He'll point at a random raid member and fire off a few bursts in that direction, which will hit everyone in the line of fire. The ranged groups will need to heal through it, but melee can avoid a large amount of the damage by ducking behind him as he fires. Throughout Phase 2, he'll also be pulsing a raid-wide AoE damage over time effect called Heat Wave. It deals fire damage, so as in Phase 1, a fire resistance aura or totem is very helpful. Heat Wave is responsible for the majority of the damage taken during this phase, and makes it one of the most healing-intensive portions of the encounter, so getting through Phase 2 quickly is important. This is an ideal time to use Bloodlust or Heroism, as well as any other available DPS cooldowns. He'll also occasionally fire rockets out at the raid. Their target location is shown by a red circle on the ground, which can be difficult to see, so keep an eye out for it. These rockets will instantly kill anyone they hit and must be avoided. He can also use an ability called Laser Barrage, at which point he will pick a direction and fire a constant stream while slowly turning clockwise. Should he use this ability, everyone must immediately clear out from in front of him to avoid getting one-shot. You'll know when he's about to use it when he starts casting an ability called Spinning Up. However, it is possible to get through the phase without him ever using it. After the VX-001 is dead, you'll move on to Phase 3 and the Aerial Command Unit. This should be tanked by a ranged DPS class with a good amount of health, as it will be floating out of reach of most melee abilities. During this phase, Mimiron will summon 3 types of robot adds. The first and most immediately dangerous are the bomb bots. These are summoned directly below the floating command unit and will run toward the raid and explode. We found the best way to deal with them was to root them in place using chains of ice or entangling roots and have ranged DPS quickly burn them down. The other 2 adds will spawn in at the beams of light you can see appearing around the room. A green light means a junk bot is going to spawn, and a yellow light means an assault bot is going to spawn. The junk bots aren't terribly dangerous and can generally be ignored by DPS, but should be kept off of clothies as much as possible. They'll usually be killed off over time by incidental raid damage. The assault bots, however, deal a heavy amount of damage and need to be killed relatively quickly. Once they die, you'll need to loot a magnetic core off of the corpse and use it directly beneath the aerial command center to bring it to the ground. It's a good idea to turn on free-for-all looting and designate one person to loot and use the magnetic core so everyone else can remain focused. While on the ground, the aerial command unit will be taking extra damage, so use this time to put some heavy DPS on it. Once it's back in the air, switch back to killing the assault bot and repeat this process until you finish off the command unit and push into Phase 4. Be sure that ranged DPS is keeping an eye out for bomb bots as well through this entire phase. During the transition into Phase 4, you'll need to clean up any remaining robot adds. You want to have some time to top everyone off and prepare. The raid should be mostly spread out during Phase 4, similar to Phase 1 positioning. Phase 4 is a battle against the combined might of all three vehicles from the previous phases, although each has lost some of their abilities. The Leviathan tank will continue to drop landmines and use its Shock Blast ability, but will not Plasma Blast the main tank or throw napalm shells. The VX-001 cannon will be using a lightning attack that functions identically to the Rapid Blast from Phase 2 and will fire rockets as well. It can also use its Laser Barrage ability, but will no longer cast Heat Wave. The aerial command unit will simply fire its plasma ball and will not summon any of the robots from Phase 3. The Leviathan tank and the command unit will need to be tanked just as they were in their respective phases. All three pieces will come into the phase at 50% health and must die within 15 seconds of each other or they will self-repair. DPS should be split with range primarily watching the head and melee primarily watching the tank, with both helping DPS the chest as well. It's important to keep the boss as still as possible while he's firing Laser Barrage, as the extra movement can easily catch raid members who are otherwise safe in the stream. It is possible for the cannon to fire Laser Barrage while the tank is using Shock Blast, which is very difficult to deal with as the entire boss will move to the main tank when the Shock Blast finishes. If a Holy Priest is available, using Guardian Spirit on the main tank and simply having them eat the Shock Blast can help. Paladin tanks can use Divine Shield as well, as long as they are quick to cancel it as soon as the Shock Blast casts. Once all three pieces are low on health, it's time to bring them down. Be sure to orchestrate this carefully so that all three die within the 15-second window. If possible, try not to bring them down during Shock Blast or Laser Barrage, as the boss won't actually die until those respective casts finish, but the timer will continue to tick down. Overall, Mimiron is a very challenging encounter, one of the most difficult in the zone. As always, you can find more information on this and other bosses on the Project Marmot forums at TankSpot.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, check the movie details for a direct link. Thanks for watching, and good luck!